So in a couple of months' time, we are going to have another new TCG that will be hitting shelves in the form of Riftbound, the League of Legends TCG that has quite the following behind it already. So with all the cards revealed in the game, and with 2 months out from release window, I figured, you know what? Maybe it's time to start to have a little dive into it. So in today's video, we are going to look at all of the champion legends, as well as their signature spell cards in the game. My name's Ben Fitzpatrick, I'm a TCG caster. That means I just love talking about them. So let's do that right now. But before we get into today's video, if you do enjoy the video and you want to see more Riftbound content and coverage, please do go ahead and drop a like rating on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, like I know over 90% of people have not done while watching these videos. So if you're coming back on the regular, might as well subscribe. It is completely free to do so. While you're down there, check out my other links in my link tree, as well as my X and TikToks, and drop a comment down below with some of the decks that you're looking to try when Riftbound launches in the end of October. Yes, let's talk about Riftbound, a game that exploded onto the scene when it was announced. And as soon as those first cards got revealed, got a little bit of bad press, especially from me as well. I wasn't 100% convinced about the game. But now, as the cards have been revealed, as some of the demos have started getting into players' hands in events like Gen Con over in North America, I've started to have the corner turned a little bit. I'm quite interested in this game now and seeing exactly where it is going to go. So I've spent the last couple of days trying to do my research, trying to figure out exactly how the game works, some of the nuances to the game as well, and into enough space where I can make this video. So we're going to talk about all of the legend cards, which is essentially, if you're playing from a one-piece background, your leader card, and your signature spell or unit card, which is exclusive to the legend and the champion legend that you are playing in the deck. So to give you an example, we'll start off in the Proving Grounds box set, which is the sort of group starter set that Riftbound and Riot are releasing at launch in the game. It's going to come with 4 exclusive champion legends and decks in Annie, Master Yi, Lux, and Garen. So we're going to start with Annie, who is red and purple and has the ability at the end of your turn, ready 2 runes. This very much feels like it is a burn deck of some description. You've got cards in red and in Annie's package where you have things like Incinerate, which is a 2 energy action spell, which can be played either on your turn or when a showdown is declared, whether that is a vacant showdown or a combat showdown. And it allows you to burn a unit for 2 at a battlefield. You've also got things like Disintegrate, which is a 4-cost spell action to burn 3 for a unit at a battlefield. If it kills it, draw 1. You've got things like Get Excited, which can also burn when you discard as long as its energy cost. Kind of similar to the way that Force Throw works a little bit in Star Wars Unlimited. You've got things like Hextech Ray, Sky Splitter as well, if you really want to go with that big 8 power, 8 energy unit and 8 energy spell. It feels very much like a kind of burn deck. I'm wanting to get my opponent into starting those showdowns, whether they are empty showdowns by them conquering into a empty battlefield, or starting a combat showdown by trying to challenge for a battlefield that you are already in control of. So that's what this seems like it wants to do, which is a little bit interesting when you look at the signature card that Annie is available to it. So signature cards, signature units, or signature spells are a max 3 of in the deck, just like any card is, but you have to be running the necessary champion legend for the card to be legal, essentially. You can't go ahead and run, say, one of Jinx's signature spells, the Super Mega Death Rocket, in Annie, even though she shares the same color identity. It has to be the matching champion legend that you are working with and running. And for Annie, her signature card is a little bit different because, as you'll see, quite a lot of the signature cards are spells. Annie, however, has a signature unit in the form of Tibbers. It's an 8 energy, 2 power. So with these units and these icons here, you have to recycle, put to the bottom of the deck, either 2 of a red rune or a purple rune in order to pay for the cost. 7 might, which remember is its attack as well as its defense when a combat showdown is declared. When you play me, deal 3 to all units at battlefields. So this is very similar to a card in the Gundam card game that we're seeing that is very, very popular at the moment, called Wing Gundam Zero. That's a very, very similar thing. It's an 8 cost, it's 5/7 as its base stat line from memory. When played, it deals 3 damage to all level 5 or lower units. You're seeing a very similar effect being activated here to deal 3 to all units at battlefields. So nice and big unit, nice and good damage spread here. My only small little bit of concern with this is maybe trying to get up to those necessary 8 runes, those 8 energy that you have to pay for it, whether you're going to be able to get there, and how kind of mid-rangey that Annie is going to end up being when the game launches. I know that there are a lot of people that are already testing with decks at the moment on proxies or in sort of, online clients and things like Tabletop Simulator and the like. I've not dived 100% into them. I know of some of the decks that are looking very popular at the moment, and Annie hasn't been one that has popped up in my research at the very least. We might get proved wrong. We've still got a lot of time until the game releases. I think it's the 31st of October is when Riftbound launches for us in the West. It's out right now in China. So we've got a little bit of time to potentially work with. Next up in the Proving Grounds box set, we've got Master Yi Wuju Bladesman. It is green and orange, and while a friendly unit defends alone, it gets +2 might. So this is all about having that one stalwart unit on battlefields, holding down the fortress, and having the buff to do so. Its signature spell is Highlander, a 4 energy reaction spell. And reactions, remember, are able to be played at any time before spells and abilities resolve. So going into the chain, which is a feature in Riftbound, quite similar to the stack for those that are familiar with Magic the Gathering, and of course chain linking for those that play Yu-Gi-Oh! So it's a 4 energy reaction spell that says choose a friendly unit. The next time it dies this turn, recall it exhausted instead. So instead of it dying, it comes back to the base and it doesn't count as a move. You are allowed 1 move each turn, whether it's from base into a battlefield, being recalled from the battlefield into the base, or if you have an ability to do so, or if the unit has ganking to move it across battlefields. And this card ties in really nicely with that Master Yi Legend ability. While a friendly unit defends alone, it gets +2 might. So the idea here is put a really big unit onto a battlefield defending alone. So say maybe a 5 might unit. It will then get that boost with the Master Yi effect, which doesn't apply to just sort of one instance of it. You can have, it seems at the very least at first reading this, 1 unit defending in each battlefield, and both of them individually will get their +2 might bonus because they are still defending alone. So put something with like 5 might or more on the battlefield, have it with that Master Yi ability to become like a 7 might unit, force your opponent to really commit to trying to defeat it in a combat showdown. And if it dies, if they play like a pump spell or a burn spell of some description, you just go, okay, funny, I play Highlander, and it's going to come back recalled, and we'll do it all over again for really, really great value. I like the look of Master Yi early on. Orange seems like it's a pretty good rune to be in the early stages of Riftbound. Green is a little bit more intriguing, but orange seems like it's pretty prominent in the early stages. And we'll get to a couple of legends that care about orange quite nicely. We've then got Lux, who is blue and yellow and has the effect when you play a spell that costs 5 or more, you draw 1. So here we are looking at big, huge spells that we are wanting to play and getting them replaced in hand with the legend effect. And this is going to combine nicely with your signature spell, which is an 8 energy action to just deal 8 to a unit, to just wipe something out of the board as soon as possible. My only concern with this is that you're not ramping runes, it really looks like. Orange seems to be one of the sort of more ramp runes and colors to be in. So blue and yellow here doesn't really get you the ramp package. Yes, you've got the seals, or whatever they're called, the 0 cost pieces of gear that ramp you. Yeah, you've got the different seals that are able to add the power into your pool, but I'm not 100% convinced about how quickly you're going to be able to get up to that 5 or more range. So we'll have to see, but it certainly seems like it's maybe one of the weaker spell slinger decks that are in Riftbound early on. The last legend that we've got in the Proving Grounds box set is going to be Garen, Might of Demacia. Orange and yellow with the effect text, when you conquer, if you have 4+ units at that battlefield, draw 2. So we're looking to swarm battlefields here, conquer them nice and quickly, and if you have those 4 units, you draw 2. And remember, conquering is the action of taking a battlefield. So whether that's conquering in an empty battlefield, or it's conquering a battlefield that your opponent already has possession of. And remember as well that when you do hold a battlefield, or when you do have possession of a battlefield, you can also play units directly to that battlefield if you control it. You don't have to play it to base and then move it. You can, but you can just straight away play it to a battlefield. So I'm interested to see how Garen exactly is going to work. The small drawback is it is when you conquer and not when you conquer and hold. So you are going to have to dump a load of units straight into a battlefield for you to be able to get the draw 2. If you do get those big swarm of units, however, you've got Decisive Strike as your signature spell. 5 energy, 1 orange or yellow power, so have to recycle an orange or yellow rune. Action spell, give friendly units +2 might this turn. Exactly what you'd want from something that's trying to swarm, get you that Decisive Strike, boost everything up by 2 might, and if you get that successful conquer in the combat showdown, you go ahead and draw 2 cards. Nice and simple, nice and hopefully effective. So that's Proving Grounds out of the way. And the idea, I think, from Proving Grounds is obviously to introduce players, A, to the game without sort of having to go through and buy all the different individual starter decks as well, and also have an immediate opportunity for them to play in the 2v2 or the 4-player free-for-all modes that Riftbound also supports. But then we go ahead and we get into the main set, Riftbound Origins, which will be the first booster set, which is releasing day in day with Proving Grounds and all the other starter decks. There's not a staggered release window like there is and there was with something like the Gundam card game. So let's get straight into the legends and signature spells in Riftbound Origins. We're going to start off with Kai'Sa, Daughter of the Void. Red-blue legend that has the reaction to add a power of any kind, and you can use this only to play spells. This ability here, this little symbol, is the generic power symbol. So not generic energy, like we saw with Lux, which is indicated with the number in a white circle. This is adding generic power, which is pretty good, considering that you're not having to recycle runes to be able to do that. So if you've got a load of spells that only need 1 power, you can go ahead and exhaust the Kaiser legend to pay for that cost while not having to recycle runes away. I really, really like that idea, and I really like this concept. And obviously what you'll see is that this is another Spellslinger type deck, with the ability being forced to only use that generic power to play spells. And for Magic the Gathering players, they will feel right at home in the fact that it's red and blue, in the fact that it is it in Magic the Gathering terms. Red-blue is known as is it for those who are maybe unfamiliar with Magic the Gathering because of the Guilds of Ravnica, one of the worlds that is in the extended universe in that game and in the narrative of Magic the Gathering. I tinkered around with Is It a little bit during the Return to Ravnica days with Goblin Electromancer, the boy. But now we've got it in Riftbound. And the signature spell is really, really cool. It's Icathian Rain. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. 7 energy, 3 power of either red or blue. Effectively call it 2 power, though, because of the Kaiser effect. Do this 6 times. Deal 2 to a unit. And you can choose different units. Notably, it doesn't have the action or reaction tag, so you have to do this on your turn. But you've got 6 different instances of dealing 2 damage to a unit. It's not deal 2 damage to a unit and do it 6 times at that same unit. So dealing, 12? You can choose different units. So you can split that damage however you want. Really, really cool spell. I really like this spell. I think this is really, really fun. I think this is really, really interesting. I think you'll be really, really reliant here on also playing the seals in this deck. The red and blue seals, I think, will be very, very helpful to help you really cheat a load of the power costs of the spells that you're going to be using in this deck. But I'm really intrigued by Kaiser here in the early stages. I watched a video by, I can't remember who it was. I think it was like Southern something games or like SoCal games or something like that. And they played Kaiser in one of the videos. I'll try and find the video that I'm talking about and put it in the link in the description. But it was really, really interesting. And it was really, really cool. And this spell does really, really nicely. So I'm interested in Kaiser early on. We then got Volibear, Relentless Storm, which I know is a legend that one of my good buddies Ross in Wassy Plays and PTCG Radio fame is very interested in early on. Red and orange, when you play a mighty unit, you may exhaust me to channel 1 rune exhausted. Channeling 1 rune essentially just means adding it to your rune pool, so you are ramping. And a mighty unit is defined while it has 5 or more might. So this is what I was talking about earlier when I was talking about Garen, about orange being kind of the ramp style rune identity here. You are ramping a lot in orange. There are a lot of ramp cards in orange that let you go into these bigger, mighty units here. And that combines quite nicely with the signature spell in Stormbringer. 6 energy, 2 power of red or orange. I will also get the actual names of the runes in my head. I think it's Fury is the red one, and then orange. It's not Order because that's yellow. I'll do some more research. I'll do some more brushing up on that one to make sure that I've got those for the next Riftbound video, because you bet we're going to be doing more Riftbound videos in the future. So Stormbringer, though, goes ahead and activates as such. Choose a friendly unit in your base. Deal damage equal to its might to all enemy units at a battlefield, then move your unit there. So this is a fight spell on a big unit that you have ramped into with the leader ability, the legend ability, and some of the other ramping effects that you've done in the early game. It's a fight spell to essentially, hopefully in theory, wipe the board or wipe the battlefield on your opponent's side. Then you get a free move of that unit to go and conquer the, what will be presumably, empty battlefield. Stormbringer's really, really cool. I really like this spell. I really love the artwork on this as well. Some of the art that is in Riftbound in these early sets is absolutely phenomenal. I think it's really, really cool. And that's before we've even spoken about overnumbered cards, which are your alt arts in Riftbound. But this seems really, really good. Seems really, really synergistic with what Volibear is trying to do, getting into those mighty units early on, going ahead and using Stormbringer, wiping a battlefield, moving in for an easy free conquer. It's quite unlikely that your opponent is going to be able to answer that too easily in their action step. So really, really cool. And of course, it means that you still get your move for turn if you have another unit that's still in your base. Really, really cool. I like Volibear as well early on. Next up is Jinx, who was one of the first legends that got revealed in Riftbound, which makes a lot of sense with how popular the Arcane series has been on Netflix. She is red and purple, and she reads as such: at the start of your beginning phase, draw one card if you have one or fewer in hand. So when I first saw this legend, I'll admit I was supremely underwhelmed by this. I thought that this legend was going to be quite bad. But as the rest of the card pool had been released, and people had started testing with Jinx, there's actually a lot of really fun things you can do with this legend. Because quite a lot of the cards in Fury and in Purple care about either discarding or being recurred from the discard pile. And the nice thing about the leader ability here, the legend ability, is that it is at the start of your beginning phase. And the way that the start of the turn works in Riftbound is that you go A, B, C, D in the first sort of opening phases of the turn. You have your awaken phase, or your awaken step, where everything readies back up, ready to be used. You have your beginning phase, which is where you check for any, essentially like upkeep style effects, like you would in Magic. And that's where this legend effect triggers. So it checks here if you have one or fewer cards in your hand for you to be able to get your draw step, or your draw from the legend effect. You then channel, get your 2 runes from the rune deck, and then you draw. So if you can manipulate it right, you can draw 2 cards at the start of a turn with the Jinx legend. And we know, in games like the One Piece card game, how helpful and how strong drawing an extra card at the start of the turn is in the game. So Jinx looks really interesting, and Jinx looks really, really fun. And when speaking about cards that return back to hand from the trash, we can look at the signature spell that Jinx had. I mentioned it earlier. It's Super Mega Death Rocket. 4 energy, 1 power of either red or purple. Deal 5 to a unit. So already, it's an overstatted burn spell, dealing 5 for 4. What is essentially 3 as well by the time you've recycled that red or purple rune. It also has the added effect of when you conquer, you can discard 1 to return this from your trash to hand. So in theory, you could potentially recycle this spell ad nauseum as much as you'd like. As long as you've got the cards to discard, you can keep recurring this Super Mega Death Rocket and burning things for 5. Really, really interesting. Of course, the big sort of caveat to this will be, at what point do you stop discarding? At what point would you much rather keeping cards in hand? A little bit similar to Kylo Ren, the original Kylo Ren, for those that are familiar with Star Wars Unlimited, that was more powerful as long as you had fewer cards in your hand. That's how I sort of foresee this going. Maybe a little bit stronger initially than what that Aggression Villainy Kylo was when it was released in Star Wars Unlimited. But definitely really, really interesting and really aggressive nonetheless. Next up, we've got Darius, Hand of Noxus, who is red and yellow and has the effect to exhaust as a reaction, Legion, so has to activate a Legion effect here, which is you get it as long as you've played a card during that turn, add 1 energy, add 1 generic cost that you'll pay in the number in the circle here. This one's a little bit difficult, honestly, for me to kind of try and judge here. Because it has the reaction tag, and you have to activate this as a reaction. You can do it at any time, which is great. But do you want to do it at any time, is the question. You have to have played a card beforehand as well to facilitate adding that 1 energy. I don't know. It just feels a little bit like you're having to do too much for the sake of getting the 1 generic energy. At this point, just either play something else or play the seals to get you the power, which feels like will be a lot more necessary to try and sort of cheat in the game as opposed to cheating energy costs. So we'll have to see how things develop. On face value, I'm not 100% convinced, however. The signature spell for Darius is Noxian Guillotine. 4 energy, 1 power of either red or yellow. Has the action keyword, so either play it on your turn or in showdowns, and it has to be at the start of that action window that each player gets when a showdown is declared. When a showdown is declared, each player has a window in which they can essentially start a chain, basically, by kicking things off with one of these action spells. Players can then react with those spells that have the reaction tag. So action, choose a unit, kill it the next time it takes damage this turn. Okay, sure. Legion effect, kill it now instead. This is a lot better with that Legion keyword. I really like the usage of it when it has the Legion keyword. In the action step using it, it's not terrible because you can do this before damage is assigned and before damage is declared. That's when that action step kicks in during showdowns. So it is a kind of kill spell, but I think I like it more in that Legion effect. So you have to use a card first. So play a unit first or play one of the seals first maybe to get that on board. One of the nice things that you can do in Riftbound as well is you can float energy. So you can pay 1 energy, recycle the rune, and still have that 1 energy floating in your energy pool, which is really, really nice. It was demonstrated during a demo video that I watched where one of the people, the person creating the video, played up against one of the developers of the game. And they clarified, hey, yeah, you're allowed to float energy, but still recycle the rune away to pay for a power cost. So you'll often see that happen, I think, when it comes to using these seals. So you can play the seal, still have that rune, that energy floating, and go ahead and pay it use the rune straight away to pay for the power cost, and then another 3 energy, and you've got the Noxian Guillotine Legion effect to kill something. That's quite nice. It's just a shame that it's linked to Darius, I think, because I'm not 100% sure how strong Darius is going to be. Yes, in that same logic and in that same chain, if you are playing Darius, you can now then go ahead and use the Legion effect to go and get the extra energy for Darius Legend ability. We'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see on that one, but I'm not totally convinced. Next up, we've got Ahri, which is a legend that one of my close friends is very interested in playing because they love Ahri. Blue and green, so Simic, for those who are familiar in Magic terms. When an enemy unit attacks a battlefield you control, give it -1 might this turn to a minimum of 1 might. So we're looking at kind of control here, which is good. I think this is really, really nice because it makes it so that your opponent has to try and commit multiple units into a battlefield to be able to try and conquer it in that combat showdown. Because this isn't limited, at least from what it reads, it's not limited to once per turn. So each instance of an enemy unit attacking a battlefield that you control is going to get that -1 might. It also combines really nicely with Ahri's signature spell, which is Foxfire. 3 energy, no power cost. However, it does have the hidden keyword. And the hidden keyword is an effect where you can hide a card, put it face down, similar to like a trap card in Yu-Gi-Oh terms, for a generic power cost, so recycling either a green or a blue rune in the case of the Ahri legend, and then you get to react with it later for free. So it does have immediately the reaction tag, even though the card itself has action. You can just use it as a reaction step for nothing, which is unbelievable. Really, really cool. But in the action step, you can kill any number of units at a battlefield with total might 4 or less. So what we're wanting to do here, I think, with Ahri is take advantage of a lot of these might reduction abilities and then Foxfire any of these away. I think it's going to be used best when the spell is hidden so that you can go ahead and build up to getting some really strong value from the Foxfire. You could essentially 4 for 1 if you do it well enough. If you obviously have the reduction from the 9-tailed fox to reduce something to 1 might, and then continuously reduce and reduce and reduce things to 1 might, because you can't have 0 might on a unit, it looks like, early on. A lot of these spells and abilities say they've got to be reduced to a minimum of 1 might. But if that is the case, and you flip Foxfire as a reaction from hidden, you are still potentially getting a 4 for 1 to kill all of these units. Really, really cool. I think Ahri is definitely going to be one, if built correctly, that players are going to have to watch out for. Next up, we've got Lee Sin, who is green and orange. Lee Sin, Blind Monk, has the effect of pay 1 energy and exhaust this legend, buff a friendly unit, which is a +1 might bonus if it doesn't have a buff already. So we're trying to strengthen our units here. And importantly, this doesn't say that it has to be at a battlefield. It can be at your base. And that's important when we consider Lee Sin's signature spell, Dragon's Rage. Dragon's Rage, for 4 energy and 1 green or orange power, allows you to move an enemy unit, then choose another enemy unit at its destination. They deal damage equal to their mights to each other. So here, in fact I misspoke, I thought this was move your own unit. So this is actually a fight spell for other units here, which is kind of intriguing when you actually think about it, because it's actually at odds slightly with what the legend is trying to do here. A fight spell is really cool. I like that. Moving an enemy unit and then choosing another enemy unit at its destination, so you can drag something over that is maybe just sort of holding down a battlefield, holding down the other battlefield to the one that you're kind of trying to contest, or just open that up for an easy sort of vacant conquer. But yeah, this is actually a really weird one, in all honesty. Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about that. It's interesting. It's interesting nonetheless. And the Lee Sin legend ability is cool, but yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that one. We'll get back to Lee Sin, maybe, because that's a bit weird. Anyway, next up, talking about moving things, we've got Yasuo, Legend Yasuo Unforgiven, who is green and purple, who has the effect 2 energy, and exhaust this legend, move a friendly unit to or from your base. So you're getting an extra potential move here than what you would originally already be allowed during your turn. So not bad. 2 energy, maybe a little bit steep, but if you've got a unit that you really want to recall, or you want to sort of recall that from a base and then go ahead and conquer into something else, there's possibility for it there. We've also then got the signature spell for Yasuo, which is Last Breath. 3 energy, recycle 2 either green or purple runes. In action step, ready a friendly unit. It deals damage equal to its might to an enemy unit at a battlefield. So again, we've got a fight spell here, but quite nicely, this readies the friendly unit. And in order to declare a move into a battlefield from a base, for example, or to go from base to battlefield, you have to exhaust the unit. So here, we could say combine this, we could go ahead and use Yasuo effect to bring the unit back to the base, then use Last Breath and ready it up, or you can play a unit down into your base, have it exhausted, then use Last Breath to ready it up, and immediately use its might to burn into something else. That seems to be kind of a running theme for a lot of spells and a lot of the cards that I've seen, that we're seeing here in this signature slot in Riftbound early on. Taking advantage of keeping your unit safe at the battlefield or at the base, while wreaking havoc on an occupied battlefield. Next up, we've got Leona, who is green and yellow, who has the effect, when you stun 1 or more enemy units, you buff a friendly unit. So stunning is an effect that stops a unit from dealing combat damage to a turn. It freezes it, as it were. It stuns. Which combines with Zenith Blade, which is the signature spell. 3 energy, again, recycling 2 green or yellow runes for their power cost, similar to Last Breath for Yasuo. Action step, stun an enemy unit at a battlefield. You may move a friendly unit to that enemy unit's battlefield. So the idea here is you stun something big on the enemy occupied battlefield. You then go ahead and move in and start that showdown and try and get rid of it, essentially, using some more of your spells in the action step or in reaction, potentially, to try and reduce some of that might down. You are in green, which we've established with Ari Nine-Tailed Fox, has access to some of those might reduction abilities, and try and get rid of it without taking any damage back and losing the unit that you are trying to conquer with. Not bad. Not bad by any stretch of the imagination. I think I've seen 1 or 2 early Leona lists that are doing quite well. So I'd like to see some more, potentially. because this looks like it could be really, really interesting with that stun mechanic. Next up, we've got Teemo. And Teemo is all about hiding things. This legend feels like if it's built and played well, it can be really, really annoying. And here's why. It's blue and purple as its rune identities, has the effect of being able to play a generic energy to hide a card with hidden instead of paying a generic power cost. So instead of having to recycle your runes away to hide things, you can just pay energy instead. And that's not limited to once per turn, which feels disgusting. Feels really, really funny. It also has a second effect, which says, pay 1 and exhaust this legend, put a Teemo unit you own into your hand from your champion zone or the board. So, in Riftbound, you have a not only champion legend, but a champion unit as well. I'll grab an example here in the form of Darius. So when you're setting up in a game of Riftbound, you can start with a copy of the champion unit in a specified zone, meaning that you're essentially guaranteed access to at least one copy of it throughout the course of the game. You can play it straight from that champion unit zone into the base, or into a battlefield that you've already occupied. Here, however, you can either put that into your hand, or you can recall a Teemo unit into your hand as well, and just continuously trampoline this Teemo unit. And we'll quickly grab, we'll break the rules a little bit here about what we're going to be doing in the next video. We'll grab one of the Teemo units in the form of the Teemo Scout. 2 energy, 1 might, has the hidden keyword. You can just keep hiding this Teemo, and has, when you play me, give me 3 might this turn. So the idea here, I think, is just constantly bounce this Teemo Scout with the legend effect. Keep hiding it for 1 energy, not losing your runes in doing so because of the other Teemo effect, then surprise with it in the reaction step. It gets the +3 might as soon as you play it, and you've all of a sudden got a massive bonus when you're trying to conquer or defend a battlefield here. I feel like this deck is going to be really, really annoying and really, really fun when built and played well. And that's even worse when you add the signature spell to it as well. Guerrilla Warfare. 2 energy, 1 power, so 1 blue or 1 purple resource. Return up to 2 cards with hidden from your trash to hand. You can hide, ignoring costs this turn. So you don't even have to worry about the first line of text on the legend ability for Swift Scout here. You could just keep hiding things. And if, for some reason or somehow, you get to deal with the Teemo Scout that you're constantly just trampolining with the legend effect, you could just bring it back with Guerrilla Warfare. I really, really like this Teemo. I dread to possibly go up against a well-built Teemo legend deck, because I think that this is going to tilt to absolutely no avail. But I think if you're playing this, it's going to be really, really funny. I think this is probably one of my fun decks that I'm looking at going ahead and playing in Riftbound when it goes ahead and launches. The deck that I'm really considering playing at the start of the game is the legend we're going to talk about now, in Victor, Herald of the Arcane, who importantly as well is one of the starter decks for the Origins set of Riftbound. Blue and yellow, and has the legend effect, pay 1 energy and exhaust this legend, get a 1 might recruit unit token. I am a big fan of token generators in a lot of card games. I was a big fan of it in Magic the Gathering during the Tarkir block, the original Tarkir block. I played Jeskai tokens, which was essentially blue, red, white, create a load of tokens, boost them up, have spells that activate twice because of the ability of one of the creatures that would trigger spells twice, and just overwhelm, basically. Here, you can do the same with all these recruit tokens, and combine it with the signature spell, Siphon Power. 2 energy, 1 power of blue or yellow. It's a reaction spell, so you can play this at any time during the chain as well. Choose a battlefield. Give friendly units there +1 might this turn, and enemy units there -1 might this turn, to a minimum of 1. So, do exactly what the card says on the tin. Drain all of these units that your opponent has in a battlefield. Fuel up either your token units or any of the other units that you play out from hand, and try and take over a battlefield. That's one way of playing this deck. The other way of playing this deck, however, is taking advantage of a keyword in yellow particularly called Death Knell. Death Knell is the effect of when I die, something happens. So there's a lot of different things here that have Death Knell and benefit from you killing your own stuff, essentially. One of the biggest combos that you can pull off with this is Cull the Weak, which forces each player to kill one of their units, and with this Soaring Scout. So if you Cull the Weak something, even better into like a really empty board state on your opponent, if they're only playing like one thing at a time. So say you're playing against like Volibear, for example. If you're against a Volibear player who's ramping and channeling runes really aggressively and plays 1 mighty unit, you can just go ahead for 2 energy and 1 yellow power cost, 1 order power cost, and Cull the Weak, force them to kill that big mighty unit, kill your own Soaring Scout, and channel an exhausted rune. Or just kill the token as well, is another option. It's really, really good. And when you combine this with Karthus as well, so when we get the Karthus champion unit, or champion leader, your Death Knell effects trigger an additional time. And the nice thing about champion units is that you can have overlapping champion units in your deck. They don't have to be specific to, like, Victor. So, of course, you're gonna play Victor, and you can play Victor Leader to have an extra recruit unit token being played anytime another non-recruit unit you control dies, to something like Cull the Weak. But you've also got Karthus to trigger any Death Knell abilities twice. You've got something like the Machine Evangel here, which has the Death Knell effect to play 3 recruit tokens straight into your base. So there's some really, really cool things that you can do with Victor, and of course still have it work with the signature spell in Siphon Power. I really, really like the look of Victor early on, and is a legend that I'm definitely interested in playing at the start of the game. 2 final legends that we've got to talk about. We've got Misfortune Bounty Hunter, which is orange and purple, and has the effect to give a unit ganking this turn, which allows it to hop from a battlefield to the other battlefield. Really, really cool, really, really fun effect, and I like the fact that there is a deck in the first set that you're able to use to play around it. The signature spell for it is Bullet Time. For 1 energy, you think, okay, that looks pretty cheap on the face of it. But then, at the action timing, you have to pay any amount of runes, any amount of power cost, to deal that much damage to all enemy units at a battlefield. So, potentially dip into some of the channeling package that the orange rune identity has, get a load of runes on board, Have some of the seals as well. I do think the seals are going to be very, very important in Riftbound early on. And then just bullet time and try and wipe everything. Maybe a little bit better if it is, a battlefield that is really, really hot. If your opponent is really hard committing to a battlefield. If it has, like, an effect that they really, really care about. So maybe something like the Grove of the Godwillow. When you hold here, draw one card. The Obelisk of Power, maybe. When you conquer here, readying 2 runes at the end of this turn with Targon's Peak. Something like that. If it's something that someone really, really cares about holding, and they're putting a load of resources and energy and effort into holding that battlefield, just bullet time it all away. There's a couple of different things that we could do. I think it's a really, really fun concept. I'm not sure how competitive it's going to be, though. The last legend we're going to talk about is very, very competitive, and is a legend that a lot of people have been playing in the early testing period and the early experimentation period of Riftbound. And that is Set the Boss. Set is an orange and yellow identity order legend, and has the effect: when a buffed unit you control would die, you may pay a generic power cost and exhaust me to spend its buff and recall it exhausted instead, which doesn't count as a move. But when you conquer, you then get to ready Set. So what you can do here is, if your opponent is controlling both battlefields, for example, you can buff a unit in your base, spoiler alert to a card we're going to be talking about in a second, and then go ahead and crash into that battlefield. If it would die during that phase and during that showdown, you can recall it safely by paying an energy cost. And then, if that battlefield ends up being empty, and you've got another unit available, just go ahead and conquer, and ready the set back up. Which then frees you up to potentially, if you can ready that unit that you just recalled with the first instance of the set ability, to then go ahead and try and start a combat showdown in the other battlefield. And do the same. Because this effect isn't limited to once per turn. It is very, very strong early on. And this sort of combo chain is facilitated perfectly with the last card we're going to talk about in this video, Set's signature spell of Showstopper. 1 energy, paying that energy that you've just paid as the rune as well for the power cost in orange or yellow. Buff a friendly unit in your base, then move it to a battlefield. So it's giving the buff ready for the set effect, and it's moving it into a battlefield to immediately potentially start that combat showdown, ready for the set legend ability to just go ahead and return it if it would die in that showdown. This deck, it looks very, very good, and it's certainly putting up the early results at the moment. Whether that now means that it's got a massive target on its back, and a load of people are now going to try and play to combat this legend, we'll have to wait and see as things go on. Because we've got 2 months till the game releases, and the closer that we get to the game coming out, the more I am very, very interested in getting into playing it. I've not actually played the game yet, either in sort of a online simulator fashion or having a demo in paper yet, because demos haven't quite come to the UK or Europe just yet. But when they do, you bet that I am going to be there. So, that's going to do it for this video, which means it's now over to you. What are you thinking of Riftbound early on? Are you interested in the game? Are you not? Has this video maybe opened your eyes to some of the different things that you can do with it? Go ahead, sound off in the comments down below, but of course, be respectful and be consider it while you are leaving those comments. While you are down there, go ahead and if you enjoy this video, drop a like rating on it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already for more Riftbound and other TCG related content as well. That's going to do it for today's video then. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, we'll see you soon. Goodbye for now.